Somebody was talking about that they like their speaker brand, whatever the speaker brand, because they can go and they can push this speaker brand really, really loud, and they never see the limit lights or any of those things come on, and they were so excited because they can push these speakers really hard, in their view. They don't like this other brand, which we're not going to name, because they say, oh, the limit lights kick in on those way too early, and they shouldn't be that way. When someone comes up and says something like that to you, and there is a distinct price difference between the first speakers and the second speaker, how would you respond to that?
Go for it, Cubbie.
For me and my DJs, I like to have that limit on there. And the reason being is it tells them that they're going to be pushing too hard. They might not have the experience to know when it's going to blow, or they're pushing it too hard for too long. So I always tell mine, like, look, do not ride the limit don't ride the limit, period. It shouldn't, but yeah, I love the limit sign on mine, because it lets my newer DJs or my less experienced DJs know that they're pushing them too hard. Without that, and I wouldn't want to push anything too hard anyway. For not worry about the limit notification.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I always come back to is, that limit is there for a reason. So if you've got company B has the limit and company A doesn't, it doesn't mean that company A's speaker is that much better. It just means that it doesn't have that piece to protect itself, and really that's what we want to have, right? You don't want to be blowing speakers and having to replace parts or replace the speaker because it did something it shouldn't have, right? Or you didn't know what the settings were to make sure. And in the heat of the moment, I get it, right? You want to get that extra sound, right? Maybe by the end of that, you have ear fatigue, so you started cranking it up even more, and next thing you know, it blows, right? I thank goodness for those ones where I've had the limit, because I'm like, oh, I'm apparently pushing this too hard. And it gets frustrating. I get it, because I can still remember, like, I did this one prom and I was running my subs and I looked down, I'm like, man, I don't feel like I'm getting much bass, but I'm limiting. So I knew I was doing something wrong. Something was wrong in my setup, like along my chain, where I was pushing too much in one and not getting enough of the right setup to do that. So go back and check out a Ben Stowe video, because I can't remember which the title is. John, maybe you can help me out, where he addresses, like, having your gain set up so that way you're getting more sound without hitting the limit, rather than trying to push it too hard and getting the limit.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about gain structure in that, and that definitely will help. But you get to a point is, depending upon the speaker company, some of them have limits, some of them have a different DSP, a clip light in there. So there's a variety of different things with that, and It depends on the company, the brand, and what they're doing with that, because there are different terminologies. They don't use the same thing, and they don't act the same way. Our friends at Electro Voice, one of the big speakers that a lot of people complain about, somebody's actually talking about in the chat room, is the ETX subs. They're like, oh, that comes on so quick, and that's kind of what Dan was mentioned, hearing that also. Well, the way Electro Voice has their limiting capability is that it starts to kick in, the audio goes up, and then it starts to kick in, and it starts to take a little bit off. It still continues to go up, but it starts to take a little off from it, so that it won't spike and blow everything up. It still will get a little bit louder as the limit light goes on. When the limit light comes on and it's flickering on, that's just telling you it's engaging. It's like having a really long yellow signal light. It's kind of what it is. You get the flashing signal, the yellow light. That's really what it is. Just telling you that something's coming. And if you continue, you're going to probably have to deal with it, or you're going to have to pull your volume back down. But right now, you can still go. You can still do what you need to do when it's in that flickering stage and it's not on solid. When you get to the point and you push it too hard, it's going to be on solid, and it's going to be telling you that, okay, now you've reached the point. Most of the time with the ETX series is that when you're pushing it that hard, because of that gain structure Dan was referring to, not be set up right, you're probably now almost pushing your board too hard to the point where you might be clipping the signal coming out to it. That's what's going to blow up your speakers more than over pushing the speakers with clean signal. If you throw a dirty signal into that speaker at that volume, you're going to have problems. Now that's one company. Now this other company, they may not have it till you get to the point where your volume is going up and up and up and up, and all of a sudden the light might come on, and boom, right there you're at like a hard ceiling. And if you go past that ceiling, it could be really problematic. There's 2 companies out there that do this that I know of for sure, that it's basically there's nothing. It's like, woohoo, we're having a party, we're having a great time. And all of a sudden the lights come on. And if I push beyond, I have shredded speaker all over my dance floor. That's how they do it. Now, as you're doing the 2, if you had them set on the same and you were pushing volume wise, this one would limit and this one would not. And it would seem to get louder and such as this one started to get louder. So there would be a perceived loudness difference for a bit, but one of them's going to get up here and it's going to die, and the other one's not. So there's factors with it. As Cubbie said, having that light come on and helping people understand that is a point to where you can't push any harder is great for newer DJs, because some of them don't understand what they think that bass, that mumbly, blowing woofer sound is great. Yay, let's make the speakers sound like that because that's what my car speakers sound like. No.
Could you imagine blowing a speaker in the middle of a reception and having to either just shuts down automatically until it cools down like an EV? Could you just imagine? I couldn't imagine. That's why I like the limited signal.
Back in the day, that happened to us when we were running separate amplifiers for your amps, down below the table. You'd get into a warm night and you're pushing pretty hard, and it happened. Gosh, I bet probably 25, 30 times over my career that there were just nights where all of a sudden the subs would go on. And you look down and it's like, oh, the amplifier's in protection because it overheated. You wait, and you wait. And because of those were PV amps at the time, and there's a volume knob on the front, so you turn the gain knob down a ways. So when it kicks back in, that it's not back full bore, full volume. And it comes back, and you can start working it back up, and then you get to the point where you screw it up and then do it out again. You got a red line to headline. That's funny. Corey said, my son used to say, you got a red line to headline. I fired him. That's dedication, Corey. That's dedication.
That's the quote of the night right there.
That's funny. Yeah, especially when your son and their children are doing it. Okay, let's jump to our next question tonight here, guys.